Verified incident logs. Authentic footage. Pure accountability. Welcome to Bodycam Incident Reports.
Get on the ground. Now, hands behind your head.
Officer, you are making a grave error. My hands are empty. I am not a threat.
You're not
I
complying.
am a retired sergeant major. I have a prosthetic leg. Touch me without cause and you violate federal law.
Stand by.
The parking lot of Miller's Market fell silent. The birds seemed to stop chirping. The hum of Saturday morning traffic on Main Street faded into the background. Officer Kyle Braden, 28 years old and full of unearned adrenaline, had his hand on the grip of his service pistol. He didn't unholster it, but the threat was there. He stared at the man in front of him. The man standing next to the brick wall of the corner store wasn't trembling. He wasn't shouting. He was standing at a modified position of attention, his posture perfect despite his age. He was Marcus Thorne. And what Officer Braden didn't know, what he hadn't bothered to check before escalating a simple encounter into a constitutional crisis, was that Marcus Thorne had spent 30 years in the United States Marine Corps. He had led men into combat in 3 different decades. He had been awarded the Purple Heart for taking shrapnel to the shoulder and back while pulling a radio operator out of a burning Humvee in Fallujah. Marcus Thorne had commanded thousands of Marines. He had negotiated with tribal warlords. He had stared down enemies far more dangerous than Officer Kyle Braden. And now, he was about to become the plaintiff in a civil rights lawsuit that would shake the foundations of this town's police department. Before we dive deeper into this infuriating and absolutely shocking story of authority gone wrong, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you are watching from. Your country, your state, your city. And if you believe that our veterans deserve respect, not harassment, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss how this story ends. Marcus Thorne was not looking for trouble that morning. He was looking for a dark roast coffee and a quiet place to wait for his wife. It was 10:15 a.m. on a beautiful Saturday. The Florida sun was warm, but not yet oppressive. Marcus was dressed in his Saturday uniform, pressed khaki trousers, a navy blue polo shirt tucked in with a leather belt and clean loafers. He looked exactly like what he was, a retiree enjoying his weekend. His wife, Evelyn, had run into the pharmacy next door to pick up a prescription. "Give me 10 minutes, Mark," she had said. "Grab a coffee." So Marcus had walked to Miller's Market, bought a large black coffee, and stepped outside to wait on the sidewalk. He chose a spot near the newspaper dispensers out of the flow of foot traffic. He sipped his coffee. He watched the cars go by. He checked his watch. That was when the cruiser pulled up. Officer Kyle Braden had been on the force for 4 years. He considered himself a proactive officer. He liked to find trouble before it happened. He was cruising through the commercial district when he saw Marcus. In Braden's mind, he didn't see a retired colonel. He didn't see a grandfather waiting for his wife. He saw a black male standing idly in front of a convenience store. In Braden's biased assessment, that meant one of 2 things: loitering or drug dealing. There had been no call. No dispatcher had sent Braden to Miller's Market. No store owner had complained. Braden simply decided that Marcus looked like he didn't belong there. He swung his patrol car into the lot, parking aggressively close to where Marcus was standing. He stepped out, adjusting his belt, already deciding that he was going to clear the corner. Marcus watched the officer approach. He noted the aggressive walk, the lack of a cover on the uniform hat, the hand resting near the weapon. Marcus took a calm sip of his coffee and lowered the cup. "Morning, officer," Marcus said. His voice was a deep baritone, steady and controlled. Braden didn't return the greeting. He stopped 6 feet away, blading his body slightly. "What are you doing here?" "Waiting for my wife," Marcus replied. "She's in the pharmacy." "You've been standing here for a while," Braden said, an accusation in his tone. "We've had complaints about loitering in this lot." "I've been here for approximately 4 minutes," Marcus corrected him. "And I am a paying customer. I just purchased this coffee inside." He gestured slightly with the cup. "I need to see your ID," Braden demanded. He held out his hand, expecting immediate compliance. This was how he operated. He demanded and people obeyed. But Marcus Thorne did not operate on fear. He operated on regulations, laws, and the Constitution he had sworn to defend. He knew the law better than the man demanding his papers. "Officer," Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming more authoritative. "I am not operating a motor vehicle. I am standing on a public sidewalk engaging in lawful commerce. Unless you can articulate a reasonable suspicion that I have committed a crime, or am about to commit a crime, I am not required to identify myself to you. This is a consensual encounter, and I am declining your request." Braden blinked. He hadn't expected pushback. Most people just handed it over. The refusal felt like a slap in the face to his authority. "I'm investigating a report of loitering," Braden lied. "That gives me reasonable suspicion. ID, now." "Loitering requires intent to commit a crime or staying in a place without apparent purpose," Marcus countered immediately. "I have stated my purpose waiting for my wife. I am consuming a product purchased at this establishment. There is no legal basis for loitering. Therefore, your demand for identification is unlawful under the Fourth Amendment. I suggest you return to your vehicle and carry on with your day." The air between them grew heavy. Two other customers, a middle-aged woman and a man in a mechanic's uniform, stopped near the door of the market. They sensed the tension. The woman reached into her purse and pulled out her smartphone. She held it horizontally, ensuring she captured the entire scene. Braden saw the phone but ignored it. His ego was bruised. He couldn't let an older man lecture him on the law in a parking lot. It would look weak. "I'm not asking, sir. I'm telling you, provide identification, or you will be detained for obstruction." "Asserting my constitutional rights is not obstruction," Marcus said. "There is ample case law establishing that fact. You are escalating a non-event officer. I strongly advise you to reconsider your next action." "Put the coffee down," Braden snapped. "Put it on the ground." Marcus sighed. It was the sigh of a man who had seen too much incompetence in his life to be surprised, but who was still disappointed by it. He set the paper cup on the ledge of the newspaper stand. "My hands are empty. Turn around and face the wall." "Am I under arrest?" Marcus asked. "You are being detained for investigation," Braden said. "Investigation of what crime?" "Turn around," Braden shouted, stepping forward, invading Marcus's personal space. Marcus didn't flinch. "I will not turn around until you articulate the crime you are investigating. This is a Terry stop. You need specific articulable facts. You have none. You have a hunch based on bias. That is not sufficient." Braden had heard enough. He reached out and grabbed Marcus's left wrist. Marcus didn't pull away, but he didn't help either. He went rigid. "Do not touch me," Marcus said, his voice hard as steel. "You are committing battery." "Stop resisting," Braden yelled, spinning Marcus toward the wall. He kicked Marcus's legs apart. "Spread 'em." "I have a fused disc," Marcus gritted out through his teeth as Braden shoved him against the brick. "Forcing me into this position is causing injury." "You should have thought of that before you decided to be a lawyer," Braden sneered. He pulled Marcus's arms behind his back. He didn't care about the resistance in the shoulders. He cranked the arms up high, well past the point of compliance. Marcus grimaced. The pain in his right shoulder, the shoulder that still carried fragments of shrapnel from 2004, exploded. It felt like a hot poker was being driven into the joint. But Marcus Thorne did not scream. Marines do not scream. He controlled his breathing. In, out. In, out. "Officer," Marcus said, his voice strained but steady. "You are causing permanent damage to a combat injury. I am informing you of this now." "Shut up," Braden said. He retrieved his handcuffs. The ratcheting sound of the metal cuffs clicking shut seemed incredibly loud in the quiet lot. Click, click. The woman recording the video stepped closer. He didn't do anything, she shouted. He was just drinking coffee. Why are you arresting him? Back up, ma'am, Braden yelled over his shoulder. Or your next interference. I'm 20 feet away, the woman yelled back. I'm recording this. You're hurting him. Braden finished securing the cuffs. He grabbed Marcus by the bicep and hauled him away from the wall. You're under arrest for failure to obey a lawful order, obstruction of justice, and loitering. It was an unlawful order, Marcus said quietly. And you have just ended your career. Braden laughed, a short, dismissive bark of a laugh. Yeah, I hear that every day. Let's go. He marched Marcus across the asphalt toward the patrol car. Marcus walked with his head up. He didn't look at the ground. He looked straight ahead. He saw his wife's car pulling into the lot entrance. He saw her slow down, her eyes widening as she realized the man in handcuffs was her husband. He gave her a subtle shake of his head. Stay there. Don't intervene. Let me handle this. Evelyn Thorne stopped her car. She watched as the young officer shoved her husband into the back of the cruiser. She saw the pain on Marcus's face as he had to bend his stiff back to get into the cramped plastic seat. She didn't get out and scream. She didn't run over. She was a colonel's wife. She knew the protocol. She pulled out her phone and dialed the family attorney. Inside the patrol car, the smell was a mix of stale sweat and vinyl cleaner. Marcus sat awkwardly, the handcuffs digging into his wrists, his shoulders throbbing with a dull, sickening ache. Braden got into the driver's seat. He was breathing hard, the adrenaline dump making his hands shake slightly. He adjusted the rearview mirror to look at Marcus. Comfortable? Braden asked sarcastically. Marcus met his eyes in the mirror. Comfort is irrelevant. Proper procedure is what matters. You failed to verify. You failed to de-escalate. You escalated based on ego and bias, and now you have falsely arrested a retired federal officer. Braden hesitated. Federal officer, I retired from the United States Marine Corps with the rank of colonel. I currently serve as a security consultant for the Department of Defense. My credentials are in the wallet you are going to process at the station. Braden's stomach did a small flip, but he pushed the fear down. People lied all the time. Sure you are, Braden said. And I'm the King of England. He put the car in gear and drove out of the lot. The drive to the precinct took 15 minutes. Neither man spoke. Marcus spent the time cataloging his injuries and memorizing the sequence of events. He replayed the conversation in his head, ensuring he remembered the exact wording Braden had used. Loitering. Failure to comply. When they arrived at the precinct, Braden pulled into the sally port. He hauled Marcus out of the car. The walk to the booking area was humiliating, designed to break the spirit. But you cannot break the spirit of a man who has survived the things Marcus Thorne had survived. They entered the processing area. Behind the high desk sat Sergeant Thomas Kowalski. Kowalski was 55 thick around the middle with a mustache that had seen better days. He was tired. He was 10 months away from retirement. He looked up as Braden wrestled Marcus toward the bench. Kowalski's eyes narrowed. He looked at Marcus. He saw the haircut, high and tight gray, but precise. He saw the shoes. He saw the bearing. Then he looked at Braden. What do we have here, Kyle? Kowalski asked. Refusal to identify. Loitering. Obstruction. Braden rattled off. Guy thinks he's a lawyer. Gave me a hard time in the Miller's Market lot. Kowalski looked back at Marcus. Sir, turn around so I can uncuff you for processing. Braden unlocked the cuffs. Marcus brought his arms forward, slowly wincing as the blood rushed back into his shoulders. He rubbed his wrists. Deep red indentations circled the dark skin. Empty your pockets, please, Kowalski said. Place everything in the bin. Marcus reached into his back pocket and pulled out a slim leather wallet. He placed it in the plastic tray. Then a handkerchief. Then a set of keys. Kowalski picked up the wallet. He opened it to inventory the contents. Standard procedure. He pulled out the driver's license. Marcus Aurelius Thorne. Then he saw the other card behind it. It was a Department of Defense Common Access Card, CAC, but not a standard one. It had the green stripe of a retired officer, and behind that was another card, a laminated medical alert card from the Veterans Administration indicating service-connected disability surgical fusion/shrapnel. And behind that, a folded laminated copy of a DD-214 snippet that some old-school vets carried listing awards. Kowalski stopped. He read the small print. Silver Star, Bronze Star with V device, Purple Heart, second award. Kowalski froze. He himself had served 4 years in the Army back in the 80s. He knew what he was holding. He looked up at Marcus, really looked at him this time. He saw the faint scar running from the jawline down into the collar. Kowalski looked at Braden. "Kyle," he said, his voice very quiet. "Did you run this guy's name before you brought him in?" "No, he refused ID. That's why I brought him in." "You didn't run the plates on the cars nearby. You didn't check anything." "He was loitering, Sarge. I told you." Kowalski closed the wallet slowly and set it down on the counter with a reverence he usually reserved for his grandkids. He walked around the desk. He didn't look at Braden. He walked straight to the office of the watch commander, Captain Reynolds. "Sarge?" Braden asked, confused. "What's the holdup I need to write the report?" "Don't touch that computer." Kowalski snapped over his shoulder. "Don't write a single word until I come back. Stand there and shut up." Marcus stood by the counter. He looked at Braden. "He knows," Marcus said simply. "Knows what?" Braden asked, though his voice wavered. "He knows that you have just arrested a man who spent 30 years defending the very rights you just violated. He knows that the loitering charge won't stick because I have a receipt in my pocket time-stamped 4 minutes before you approached me. And he knows that this department is about to be humiliated." The door to the captain's office opened. Captain Reynolds walked out, followed by Kowalski. Reynolds looked furious. He was a tall man, balding with a reputation for being fair but strict. He held Marcus's wallet in his hand. Reynolds walked up to Marcus. He ignored Braden completely. "Colonel Thorne?" Reynolds asked. "Yes, Captain." "Sir, I am Captain Reynolds. I am the watch commander." Reynolds looked at the red marks on Marcus's wrists. He looked at the way Marcus was holding his shoulder. "Are you injured, sir?" "My rotator cuff is torn, likely re-injured, and I have significant pain in my lower back at the fusion site. Your officer was informed of these pre-existing conditions and chose to use excessive force regardless." Reynolds turned to Braden. The look on his face could have peeled paint off the walls. "Office. Now. Cap, Now!" Reynolds roared. The entire booking room jumped. Braden went pale. He slinked into the office. Reynolds turned back to Marcus. "Colonel, I am going to release you from custody immediately. There will be no charges filed. I want to apologize on behalf of—" "Captain," Marcus cut him off. "I appreciate your professionalism. However, I am not interested in an apology at this moment. I am interested in preservation of evidence. I want the body camera footage downloaded and secured immediately. I want the surveillance footage from the station secured, and I want to make a formal complaint." "Understood, sir. We will handle all of that." "My wife has contacted my attorney," Marcus continued. "He will be here shortly. I will wait for him in the lobby. I am not leaving until I have a copy of the incident report number." "Of course, Colonel. Sergeant Kowalski, escort the colonel to the lobby. Get him water, coffee, whatever he needs, and call the paramedics to have his shoulder looked at." "I don't need paramedics here," Marcus said. "I will go to the VA hospital. I want the documentation to come from federal doctors." It was a brilliant legal move. Documentation from a VA hospital carried federal weight. As Marcus walked to the lobby, he heard the shouting start in the captain's office. It was muffled through the glass, but the tone was unmistakable. Braden was being flayed alive. But the real storm was just beginning. By Monday morning, the video recorded by the woman in the parking lot had been posted to a community Facebook group. From there, it went to TikTok. From there, it went to X, formerly Twitter. The caption was simple: "Hero veteran arrested for drinking coffee." The video was damning. It showed a calm, well-dressed older man standing still. It showed a young, aggressive cop escalating for no reason. It showed the physical handling of a man who was clearly not resisting. The views climbed. 100,000, 500,000, 2 million. The local news station picked it up. Then CNN, then Fox News. It was the rare story that outraged everyone. Liberals saw racial profiling. Conservatives saw disrespect for a veteran. Everyone saw government overreach. Marcus Thorne's lawsuit was filed on Wednesday. It accused Officer Braden of unlawful detention, false arrest, excessive force, and violation of civil rights under Section 1983. It accused the city of failure to train. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division took notice. They opened a probe not just into the arrest of Colonel Thorne, but into the entire pattern of stops conducted by Officer Braden. What they found was a disgrace. In his 4 years, Braden had stopped over 300 people. 85% of them were black or Hispanic men. He had a habit of patrolling low-income areas and finding reasons to stop anyone who looked like they had money or anyone who looked suspicious. He had 8 prior complaints for rudeness and excessive force, all of which had been dismissed by his previous supervisor, a supervisor who had since retired. But he couldn't dismiss this. Not with the whole country watching. The internal investigation was swift. Braden claimed he felt threatened. He claimed Marcus was posturing. But the body camera audio betrayed him. Marcus had been polite, articulate, and legally correct. Braden had been rude, ignorant of the law, and violent. 6 weeks after the incident, the findings were released. Officer Kyle Braden was terminated for cause. His actions were deemed grossly negligent and biased. The chief of police announced that Braden would also be decertified by the state board, meaning he could never work as a police officer in that state again. The city settled Marcus's lawsuit for $1.2 million. They didn't even try to fight it in court. They knew a jury would have given him 10 times that amount, just out of spite. Marcus Thorne stood on the steps of the courthouse the day the settlement was announced. He was wearing his suit, a Purple Heart lapel pin on his collar. His shoulder was in a sling. Surgery had been required to repair the damage Braden had done. Reporters thrust microphones in his face. "Colonel, are you happy with the money? Is this justice?" Marcus looked at the cameras. His face was somber. "This is not about money," Marcus said. "I have donated the entire settlement amount to the Legal Defense Fund for veterans. This is about accountability. It is about the fact that a badge is a symbol of public trust, not a license to bully. I fought for this country for 30 years. I fought for the right of every American to stand on a sidewalk and drink a cup of coffee without being molested by the state. When that officer put handcuffs on me, he didn't just handcuff a man. He handcuffed the Constitution." He paused, looking out at the crowd. "We must demand better. We must demand that our officers are trained to respect the citizens they serve, not view them as enemy combatants. If they can do this to a retired colonel, imagine what they do to a teenager with no resources. That is why I fought this, and that is why I will keep fighting." Braden left town. He couldn't go anywhere without being recognized as the cop who arrested the colonel. He moved 3 states away, working in a warehouse, forever marked by the 6 minutes of arrogance that cost him his badge. Marcus recovered. His shoulder healed, though it was never quite the same. He still went to Miller's Market on Saturdays. The new rookie cops would wave to him as they drove by. They knew who he was. They knew the standard. The story of Marcus Thorne reminds us that freedom is fragile. It is not guaranteed by paper. It is guaranteed by the willingness of good people to stand up when authority goes wrong. It reminds us that respect is earned, not demanded. What is your biggest takeaway from this story? Do you think the punishment for the officer was enough? Type yes if you support our veterans and no if you think the system is still broken. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please share it with a friend. We need to keep these conversations going. Stay safe, know your rights, and I'll see you in the next video.
The incident review concludes here. To support continued transparency, kindly like and subscribe. We appreciate you watching Bodycam Incident Reports.